Tell your friends! Tell your friends about Hooks and Ladders, but also about songstudio.ca. You can get all kinds of information about songwriting, tips, and all kinds of stuff. Anyway, like, follow, and subscribe. That's what we need. That's what you need.
Here's another peek at what we did at SongStudio Online last August. Hope you enjoy.
Steve Poltz. Steve Poltz, yeah. And you mentioned his name, and everybody smiles when you mention Steve Poltz.
I gotta get up and run around when you say his name. Yeah. I'm gonna see him tomorrow. We're doing this and this weekend at Summerfolk in Owen Sound.
In Owen Sound. Oh, that's so nice. Say hi for me. I don't know if he'll remember me, but I've interviewed him a bunch of times, and every time I have, it was a revelation. He was just so great, and I've seen him play a bunch of times too.
There's no one like Steve. Nobody. He's the best. He's the best in the whole world. I will say this. I always say this about him, and even if you kind of don't, even if you're maybe not into the songs or whatever, he's the greatest entertainer I've ever seen in the world. Yeah. Whether you put him in an old age home or at a funeral or a daycare center, he will slay.
Yes.
And everyone will be crying and laughing, and they'll all buy a T-shirt at the end. He is the most talented, gifted entertainer I know. Yeah.
Has knowing him influenced your own performing?
Oh yeah, he influenced. I played with him last week in Canmore, and I'm still like just buzzing from it. Like it's just like he's really good for me. He's so positive, and he's the hardest working person in the world. Like he's in his 60s now. He feels like he's 25 to me. And he plays 6 nights a week.
Yeah.
For all of the, like constantly.
When I first interviewed him, by the way, I said to him, "You know who you should meet? You should meet Danny Michel. You should meet Danny Michel because he's, blah blah blah," and extolled your virtues. And he didn't, whatever. It's just another name somebody's saying to him. But then I was so happy to see that you guys had become friends because he's, I see a commonality between the two of you. For all the beautiful stuff you say about him, I see that in you too.
Oh, that's nice. Thank you.
The positivity for one thing, but also there's a certain fearlessness that you have on stage, which again, for our songwriters, I recommend you, adopt or instill.
Steve has it 100 times what I have. Like it's like a superpower he has.
It really is. But when I first saw him, he was so playing. Positive. He was playing at whatever the Canadian version of NAMM is, of the Canadian Music Manufacturers show, and so he's playing in one of those big rooms in a convention center, in somebody's booth. I don't know whose it was, but there's a guy like showing off drumsticks in the opposite booth, and there's somebody else playing through a Marshall, playing some shredding guitar thing, and there's Steve with short hair, just soldiering on, sitting down and playing, and he's playing that Jewel song that he co-wrote, and nobody is listening at all. Yeah. And the transformation from him to the next time I saw him, and then to the next time, and to the next time, he's just reinventing himself each time, getting bigger and bigger as a personality and as a fearless performer. And I think there's a lesson in there for all of us as performers.
He's a 12-headed hydra, and when you cut one of his heads off, he grows 3 more. Yeah, he's the most inspiring guy, and being around him. When you said before about being jealous, I am so jealous and envious of Steve's heart and his drive, and he has this magic too where he's like very silly, like more silly than I get, like very silly. But then he has that. It's like I say, like Tom Waits has this thing where Tom Waits will have his crazy those songs, and then he'll play the most beautiful song and tear your heart out, right? And so it's the grand weepers and grim. No, what did his wife call them? Grim reapers and grand weepers. The 2 different styles of songs he has. Steve has that too, where he'll have everybody. I made the mistake of having Steve open for me once, and that was the worst mistake in the world when I didn't know him earlier. And I was like, "Oh, the Steve Poltz guy's gonna open for me. Yeah, no problem." It was like I had the worst show ever. It's like by the time the audience, he's done with an audience, they've cried, they've laughed, they're done, they're finished, and it's like, yeah. Anyways, this is going to turn into a Steve Poltz.
Too late. It already has. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
But I see him in you, and I mean that. If you take that as a huge compliment, great, because that's how I mean it. But yeah, I just thought you guys were destined to be friends because I see him in you and you in him. And I wish it on all songwriters that they approach the stage and performing your songs with a sense of ownership and not entitlement, but like I'm here to play you my song and you're going to enjoy it. And, sort of a staking out of the territory.
Steve's also, it's good for you to it's good for musicians to kind of I'll admit that I'm not really ever nervous to play with other artists, or if I get stuck in a songwriter in the round thing with great songwriters, I still feel like, come on, you're okay, Danny, you can hold your own, you got some good songs, you're fine. So I don't but Steve scares me. He's right. Yeah, I'm like, I can't, if we're in a thing together, which we do all the time, I'm learning to get less and less scared. But he's the only guy who I'm like, uh-oh.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, and you're right. We could go on and on about him. I could talk about that song "Trash" of his. Anyway, we could talk about that. He just takes an idea, like what you would think would be the most obscure idea, and turns it into a whole complete and moving song.
We can talk about him and not, because we talk about something like he played the song at the workshop, and it was about him and his buddies in grade school or in high school wanting to be on the basketball team. And you think, okay, that sounds silly, and it started out silly. He starts thinking about whatever, the basketball and how he was too short to be on the team, but then the song goes on and on about. I actually get emotional about it. How they're waiting to see the list posted in the hallway from the coach about who made the team.
Yeah.
And it turns into this massive, intense song about life and failure and stuff. And it's by the end, everyone was crying.
Oh.
And it was wow. And it was such a silly topic.
Yeah. My favorite.
So there's a gift to finding something in life that is so real. And just or maybe you overlook it and you don't even see it because it's so real and it's just part of our lives. But that is something that connects with people, right?
Yeah, and songwriting is so often about small moments or details, and that you then make bigger because you recognize the resonance or the feeling that it's giving you. And I think he has a gift for that for sure. I think you have a gift for that as well.
It was just this idea that his song about not making the basketball team was just really about failure, or something in life not working out.
Thanks for taking a glimpse with us inside the SongStudio workshop from last August. Stay tuned for more.